Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to do my review of AEW's Dynamite Fight for the Fallen. And man, what a night it actually was. This was actually the pretty much debut episode, if you will, with AEW being simulcast, if you will, with HBO Max. It was a big deal for AEW. There was a lot of things that happened on Dynamite last night, which we will discuss today on the podcast. Some things that I liked, some things that I did not like at all. And if you guys have been sticking around with the podcast for quite a while now, you're pretty much going to know what I'm probably going to rant about and what I'm not going to like about last night's Dynamite. There were some things that were good, some things, like I said, not really too keen on, and we're going to touch bases on all those things right here on today's episode, on this podcast today. So thanks for joining me on this episode today. We're going to start off with the first match of the night. It is Orange Cassidy versus Adam Page. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup with Orange Cassidy and Adam Page, with Page keeping the pace of the match. Page then hits a fall-away slam on Orange Cassidy. Orange gets up, hits a Stun Dog Millionaire on Adam Page in the middle of the ring. Page then hits a fall-away slam to the outside on Orange Cassidy. Orange then gets up, hits a DDT on Page for a near fall. Page then goes to the outside, goes for a buckshot lariat, but Orange counters it with a beach break. Orange then hits 3 orange punches on Adam Page, but Page gets up somehow and hits a buckshot lariat on Orange Cassidy, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Adam Page. After the match, Page attacks Orange Cassidy. Christopher Daniels comes out to the ring to try to stop Adam Page attacking Orange Cassidy, but Page then attacks Christopher Daniels. So like there's some unfinished business there between Daniels and Adam Page. Moving on from that, we have a tag team matchup. It is the Hurt Syndicate taking on the Acclaimed. I thought it was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between the Hurt Syndicate and the Acclaim, with the Hurt Syndicate keeping the pace of the match. Max Caster tags himself in. Looks like there was some confusion there with the Acclaimed. Bowens looked completely pissed off with Max Caster, which ultimately let Bowens leave the match. He was standing ringside, watching Lashley hitting a spear on Max Caster, which ultimately let Lashley apply the Hurt Lock on Max Caster. And your winners of the match were the Hurt Syndicate. So it does look like there might be some hostility here between Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, to a point where we might see, possibly, the Acclaimed parting ways. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's Julia Hart versus Jamie Hayter. This was Hart's first match back on Dynamite since her injury. I thought it was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Julia Hart and Hayter, with Hart keeping the pace of the match. Hayter then hits a Death Valley driver on Julia Hart in the middle of the ring, but Hart goes to the outside, grabs an arrow. Referee Aubrey Edwards sees the arrow, grabs it from Julia Hart, which causes a distraction with the referee, which allowed Hart to spray mist into Jamie Hayter's face. Hart goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Julia Hart. Hats off to Julia Hart for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we have a vignette that was played, and it looks like Kenny Omega will, in fact, return to AEW Dynamite starting next week. Definitely excited for that, to see Omega back in AEW. Moving on from that, we have a Mercedes Moné segment. Moné shows a video package of her in AEW, the highlights, I guess, of her career so far in AEW when she debuted for AEW. Moné also talks about Wrestle Dynasty, which is coming up this weekend, where it would be New Japan hosting an event with AEW. I believe it's AEW, CMLL, as well as Stardom, and I think Ring of Honor, if I'm not mistaken, all a part of the Wrestle Dynasty show this weekend. I believe the Young Bucks have a match scheduled for that event, as well as Kenny Omega return match, since he's been dealing with diverticulitis. He has a matchup against Gabe Kidd at this show as well this weekend. And Moné said that she's going to go after the Rev Pro women's title when she faces off against Mina Shirakawa at Wrestle Dynasty. Moving on from that, we go into a triple threat match, and the winner of this match will get the first spot, if you will, in the Casino Gauntlet match. It is Jay White taking on Roderick Strong versus Swerve Strickland. I thought it was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Jay, Roderick, and Swerve, with Swerve keeping the pace of the match. Swerve hits a power slam in the middle of the ring. Roderick Strong then hits a Liger bomb in the middle of the ring. Ricochet then runs through the crowd, attacks Swerve with a pair of scissors, which ultimately led Swerve to be busted wide open, which ultimately allowed Jay White to hit a Blade Runner on Roderick Strong in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and pretty much getting the number 1 spot in the Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal, if you will, or, Royal. It's like a glorified Rumble, to be honest with you. Jay White ends up winning that, and he'll be the first entrant, or have the first spot in that matchup. After the match, though, Ricochet Attacks Swerve again with the scissors. Ricochet then hits Nano with a chair shot, and then Undisputed Kingdom come out to the ring to save Swerve Strickland. Looks like we have some unfinished business here between Swerve Strickland and Ricochet. Moving on from that, we have a Jeff Jarrett segment. Jarrett comes out to the ring. He's carrying his wrestling boots. Jarrett talks about his career. He talks about what his family's done in the wrestling business, what his father's done, what his grandmother has done in the wrestling business. Jarrett says that he's not going to retire, and then that, in fact, he has re-signed with AEW. And this is pretty much Jarrett's retirement tour, and he says he wants an AEW title opportunity. Which, again, we will talk about towards the end of the podcast about how I feel about that. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It's Powerhouse Hobbs taking on a bunch of jobbers. This was a glorified squash match. Hobbs was keeping the pace throughout the entire match, with Hobbs hitting the finish. Pins for the 3. And your winner of the match is Powerhouse Hobbs. Hats off to Powerhouse Hobbs for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of AEW's Dynamite Fight for the Fallen. It is FTR teaming up with Adam Copeland, or AKA Cope, versus the Death Riders. Before I even talk about this match, like I mentioned earlier with Adam Copeland, looks like Adam Copeland has actually had a name change in AEW. Here, Justin Roberts announced his name last night by calling Adam Copeland Cope. So it looks like Adam Copeland is no longer going by Adam Copeland. And it looks like he's going to be moving forward with AEW being known as Cope, which I am not too keen on. I think that it's just an absolute joke calling him Cope, to be honest with you. The match itself, it was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams with FTR and Cope keeping the pace of the match. Marina then attacks Adam Copeland to the outside, or Cope, I should say. Moxley and Cope then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Cope hitting an impaler on Moxley. Cope then hits a Liger bomb in the middle of the ring. Jay White then comes out to the ring. Jay White attacks Wheeler Yuta. FTR then hits a Shatter Machine in the middle of the ring, and then Cope hits a spear, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are FTR and Cope. Couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to AEW's Dynamite Fight for the Fallen last night. Was it a great show? Yes and no. I'm pretty much leaning more towards the no, for abundance of reasons. So, basically, like I mentioned earlier, man, with, obviously AEW debuting on HBO Max, I personally watched the show on Max. I have Max. I'm subscribed to Max. And I watched it on Max last night. Now, I don't know if it was, there was a difference between camera options on what you were seeing on TNT compared to Max, even though it is simulcast. But to me, watching the episode last night on Max, it looked a lot more crisper. So I would say that the plus with AEW is the fact that the camera angles looked really good. It looked crisp. The hard camera shots looked great. So the vision of the show looked phenomenal, to be honest with you. And the fact, like I mentioned it, a while back ago, with AEW going to smaller venues, it's only going to intensify AEW moving forward with crowd noise and excitement, and the fact that they can sell out these, smaller venues, these smaller arenas, where last year they were hardly even selling out arenas. They were, the majority of the arenas were pretty much empty because they couldn't sell out these arenas. So going to smaller venues like the Hammerstein Ballroom or the Manhattan Center, those, the 2300 Arena in South Philly, those smaller arenas is really going to benefit AEW moving forward because of the fact that they just can't have, they don't have a lot of people, buying tickets. Their ticket sales right now are probably at most maybe 2,500, maybe close to 4, and in between, 2,000 and 4,000 seats that are sold for these events for Dynamite. So smaller venues is really going to be something that's going to be crucial for AEW moving forward in 2025. But with that being said, there was a lot of negatives with last night's show that I did not like. Number one, let's talk about it because I'm probably going to go on a rant about it. You guys probably know if you guys stuck around long enough now. I don't have a personal issue with Jeff Jarrett. I don't know Jeff Jarrett personally, but I'll say this. When you see Jarrett, come out to the ring carrying those belts, my initial thought, okay, this guy was going to retire. Well, he's not going to retire, which is fine. If Jeff Jarrett, came out and said, hey, you know what? I signed for, one more year with AEW, and that's it for my in-ring career, and we're going to let, the cards play as they lie. No problem. It's what Jeff Jarrett said at the end of that is what really pissed me off with Jarrett. The fact that Jeff Jarrett wants to go after the AEW World Championship is absolute and utter bullshit. And to be honest with you, and he was talking about his accolades, and I get it, and I mentioned this a long time ago when it pertained to Jarrett, when Jarrett came into AEW. Is his family well known in the professional wrestling business? Absolutely. His father was a big-time promoter mainly in the, the Tennessee area. And, his family is involved in the business. And they had, this was back in the, the promotion days, back in the territory days. So, I mean, they had, their family, the Jarretts, have been around wrestling for a very, very long time. Jerry Jarrett, his father of Jeff Jarrett, had, his own promotion. And they've done a phenomenal thing. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Mid-South, not Mid-South. But I know he had a territory of his own. I don't know exactly the name of it. I originally thought it was Mid-South. I could be right, I could be wrong. But I know he had his own promotion. And, and it was a part of the territory days. And he was, the Jarretts have been around professional wrestling for a long time. But my standpoint's been with Jarrett from the get-go. If you look at the span of Jarrett's career, whether it was from WWE to WCW to TNA and what it is to AEW now, in my honest opinion, Jeff Jarrett's career at best was what he was doing in TNA, hands down. His WWE career did not go anywhere at all. The character didn't go anywhere. I remember when Jarrett came in and they had the Roadie, which was AKA Road Dogg, and he was doing the whole country music thing. It just did not fit in what they were trying to do in WWE. It just wasn't. Yeah, he was Intercontinental Champion, I believe, one time, and I get it and all that stuff, but it just didn't work, and clearly it didn't because Jarrett went from WWE to WCW, and a lot of people were like, oh, he really made a name for himself over in WCW. I don't see how, to be honest with you. I think Jarrett's career in WCW was absolute shit. This guy wasn't even World Heavyweight Champion until the later years of WCW when they were closing up shop. I mean, you remember the match where he was laying down in the middle of the ring for Hogan to go over for the cover, and Hogan got pissed off? It was one of the worst years for WCW history. You know what I mean? Yeah, is Jarrett a company guy? Sure, absolutely. But at the end of the day, him saying that he wants to go after the AEW World Championship is absolutely bullshit on so many levels I can't even tell you. But like I said, at the end of the day, when it pertains to Jeff Jarrett, his best in-ring career was in TNA. He was talking about, him running his own promotion, but I remember one of the promotions that he was running actually went bankrupt. If I'm not, what was it, Global Force Wrestling Federation? If I'm not mistaken, they went bankrupt. If that's what he's talking about, then that didn't really pan out too well for Jeff Jarrett. So it's just one of those things. And again, this is something I reiterated last week with AEW. You had this guy coming out with Jeff Jarrett saying, Jeff Jarrett coming out to the ring saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to go retirement tour. This is my last year, what yada, yada, yada. But hey, you know what? I'm going to go after the AEW World title. This is exactly what the hell I said last week about AEW, where Tony Khan doesn't know how to book younger talent. Jeff Jarrett's going after the AEW title. Where the hell is Darby Allin? Where's Darby? Where's Ricky? You know what I mean? Like, you can't book the talent that you have now. And you're reminiscing on some of these past superstars that, besides Sting, Jarrett don't mean shit. I'm sorry. Jeff Jarrett ain't no Sting. And if you say Jeff Jarrett's better than Sting, you lost your goddamn mind. Jarrett can't even lace Sting's boots. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. If you think Jeff Jarrett's better than Sting in ring, you lost your mind. That's absolutely insane. Jeff Jarrett going after the AEW title is complete and utter bullshit. It takes away from the talent they have now. And Tony Khan doesn't know how to book and build up younger talent. And this is one of the main reasons why AEW, again, also struggles with a lot of the shit that they're trying to do. For prime example, let's say, okay, Darby's going to be the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley. Okay. By the time we get to Moxley and Darby, which if I had to assume, it's probably going to be leading up towards All In July, Moxley's already going to go through the rest of the field by then, and no one's going to be left but Darby Allin. Is anybody really going to be that, are you going to care that much if Darby actually is the one at that time, if they do drag this out to All In, to dethrone Jon Moxley after all the shit that's been going on and Jon Moxley dragging this bullshit storyline out all the way until All In? You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, this is something that, again, really pissed me off last night. Jarrett's, oh, you know what, I'm going to go after the AEW World title. What about the other talent that you have on the fucking roster that you can build up into a megastar to be a future world champion for this company and build for the future? Nobody's going to put this company on the back of someone like Jeff Jarrett. Are you kidding me? Where's the Darby Allins? Where's the Ricky Starks? Where's the Daniel Garcias? Or you know what? Where's the Kyle Fletchers? And Tony Khan ruined Kyle Fletcher when it came to the Continental Classic Tournament. They shit the bed with that. That guy, at least, if Fletcher wasn't going to win the Continental Classic Tournament, Kyle Fletcher should have been in the goddamn finals of that tournament. It could have been Fletcher versus Okada or Fletcher versus Ricochet. And for all intents and purposes, let's say Fletcher, went to the finals and faced off against Okada and he lost the goddamn tournament. At least Kyle Fletcher was in the goddamn finals against someone like Okada, who's an absolute legend. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not building up your current superstar base that you have now, and that's why a lot of talent are getting pissed off. You know what I mean? And my thing is, and like I said, with Jarrett, yeah, I'm going to go after the world champion. What have you done? Even up to this point, making this announcement, even in 2024, what have you done to even grant you an opportunity, or even be in the conversation, for that matter, for a world heavyweight title opportunity? And then they had this Casino Gauntlet match. He's like, yeah, you know what? Throw me in the Casino Gauntlet match. I'm telling you right now, if Jeff Jarrett wins that damn gauntlet, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have the bigger rant than what I'm ranting about now. It's bullshit. Tony Khan doesn't know what he is doing. And people are like, oh, well, you know what? You harp on Tony Khan and you always point the finger at Tony Khan. Yes, I am. Because at the end of the day, this guy is the head booker for AEW. He books the matches. He's head of creative. You heard him say it in the media call for World's End, that, going into 2025, Tony Khan's going to be head of creative. So yeah, you have to point the finger at Tony Khan because he has no goddamn writing team. He has nothing. He wants to take full-on ownership of AEW Dynamite, where he wants everything for Tony Khan, and that's it. But at the end of the day, you're ultimately self-sabotaging your own company by doing the shit that you're doing. You go from to arenas, now you're going to smaller venues, which, again, I agree with them doing that. But what happened 2-3 years ago with AEW compared to what the hell happened now? I mean, it's night and day. You have superstars begging to leave this company because of how bad the shit's getting, like Rey Fenix and Penta. Penta, quite frankly, could debut this coming Monday on Raw's debut episode of Netflix and literally blow the roof off the arena. Shock the whole goddamn world. And people are anticipating him on Monday Night Raw. He could very well be Rey Mysterio's tag team partner against the New Day. Everybody's anticipating Penta joining Monday Night Raw, especially with the vignette that was played last Monday for Penta, pretty much, and it pretty much solidified that it is going to be Penta. So, long story short, besides the WWE stuff, this is taking away from the younger talent that you currently have on your roster, and I can't stress that enough, and how important that is. Someone like Darby, someone like Ricky, someone like Sammy Guevara, these AEW originals that are still young in the game that are, you should be building towards your future. Jack Perry is another one. You know what I mean? MJF. Even though MJF said that he wants, after what happened at World's End, he wants to go after the world champion. Yeah, absolutely. What the hell has Jarrett done? Jarrett hasn't even... When's the last time Jarrett really had a match? What, against Adam Page? And didn't he get his ass kicked? If I'm not mistaken? I could be wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure... I think Adam Page beat him, if I'm not mistaken. And what have you done? What have you done, as far as Jeff Jarrett's concerned, to even say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go after the AEW World title. You're going to have to get a lot more wins under your belt. And significant wins. Not some bullshit jobbers that you're going up against and trying to collect wins because you're Jeff Jarrett. No, I want to see you go up against someone like Swerve or an actual contender and see if you can actually make the cut and actually survive to actually get yourself a title opportunity. I don't want to just give it to you. I don't. And honestly, who is really going to give a shit about a Jeff Jarrett farewell tour? And the only reason, I'm telling you right now, Tony Khan is the biggest WWE mark that there is. Because it's kind of ironic how, Raw is going to Netflix, and I'm going to mention this even though this is an AEW, an episode of AEW Dynamite review. But I'm going to mention this because it's going to prove my point. You have John Cena coming back on his farewell tour, Monday Night Raw. I'm sure he's going to address the fans, his plans, everything else that he wants to do, yada, yada, yada. It's kind of funny how this was already announced prior to Dynamite, and then we get Dynamite debut on Max, the simulcast, and then we have Jeff Jarrett coming out, pretty much doing the same goddamn shit that John Cena is going to do possibly on Monday Night Raw. But there's going to be a immense difference. A lot more people are going to give a shit about what John Cena has to say compared to what Jeff Jarrett. I mean, come on, man. Like, really. Be yourself. Do what you did to bring you to the dance. I'm telling you. Like, if this is the shit that we're going to keep going, and like, if this is what we're going to get in 2025, it's going to be fucking bad. It's going to be really bad. Now, am I excited for the return of Kenny Omega next week? Absolutely. Kenny Omega has a lot of shit on his plate when he returns to AEW, and I want to see what happens. I want to see him have an interaction with Okada, not just him handing a title to Okada. I want him to be the Kenny Omega, the cleaner, the wrestler, to come back into the fold, get face-to-face with Okada, Hell, beat the shit out of Jack Perry for what he did. Go after the Young Bucks. Hopefully the Young Bucks also return next week after they're done with Wrestle Dynasty. You know what I mean? Because they need all hands on deck at this point. They do. And why do they do? Because Tony Khan doesn't know how to build up younger talent. That's just the way it is. And to me, the Jeff Jarrett thing was one of the things that solidified the show being just bad last night, to be honest with you. The other thing I want to talk about, too, briefly, is Adam Copeland. It was great to see Copeland come back last night to Dynamite. You know, have his first match back on Dynamite since, you know, the ankle injury that he sustained in that cage match. It was great to see him back. He looks healthy as a horse, man. He looks like he's ready to go, and he's healthy. Healthy as a horse. You know, but my thing is with Adam Copeland, and it goes back to what I said about the World's End thing. I know Copeland has his sights set on Jon Moxley. Copeland needs some more matches under his belt as a singles competitor to get himself a world title opportunity. I'm happy that he's back, and like I said, I'm happy that he is healthy as a horse. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you need single win matches on your belt for you to get yourself an opportunity at Jon Moxley's World Heavyweight title. You also have Christian Cage waiting in the balance with a contract for the AEW title. And whenever he's going to cash that in, who knows? So, and there's a lot of, like, that's the thing, man. There's a lot of shit going on right now when it pertains to what Jon Moxley's doing with the AEW World title. You got MJF wanting to go after that belt. You had the Casino Gauntlet match. And the winner of that will get a title opportunity against Jon Moxley. So I think at Maximum Carnage, which is the next event, I think in 2 weeks for AEW, is one of their special Dynamite episodes, if you will. So I think that's January 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So again, man, there's a lot of things going on with AEW. I'm not saying AEW is going to be, going downhill, and hopefully they don't. This was the first episode of AEW Dynamite in the 2025 year, but the Jeff Jarrett thing kind of just, it killed it for me, to be honest with you. I think if they put the belt on Jarrett, somebody messed up. To be honest with you, for me personally as a fan, I give a shit less for his retirement tour. To be honest with you, and I watched wrestling for a very, very long time, man. I've been around for a little bit of time now watching professional wrestling. This ain't something where he just now started watching Raw and SmackDown. And no. We're talking from early to mid 90s, bro, all the way up until now. And obviously there's other people that watched it before me. That's fine. But doesn't mean I ain't going back in time and watch Starrcade 83 or watch, AWA events. Doesn't mean I didn't watch world class events back in the day when they were, having matches at the Sportatorium, and seeing different clips and stuff like that, because now we have the luxury of having that, and watching different matches from the Von Erichs and stuff like that, Bruno, Luthez, Pedro Morales. I've seen a lot of matches in my time, bro, and a lot of storylines that were either good, great, or horribly bad. So, with AEW, it's, I wanted them to come out of 2025 with a bang. And did they do that? No. And I look online all night throughout the show, whether it's on Twitter or anything else like that. And I'm looking at everything, and I see that, Baron Corbin's a free agent. He can sign with TNA or AEW. Speedball Mike Bailey, he used to wrestle with TNA. He's a free agent. He's coming to AEW imminently. Why was he not there last night? Now, he could possibly be there for Casino Gauntlet match, sure. But why didn't he show up during last night's show? If they were on HBO Max, why not? Why didn't we get a return of Bryan Danielson or something like, you know what I mean? Like, making something at the end of the night that was like, holy shit, man, they're going to, 2025 is going to be crazy. We didn't get none of that shit last night. And that's one of the other things that pissed me off with Dynamite last night. Like, this was your debut show simulcast with HBO Max. I was hoping for, like at least one holy shit moment. And we didn't get that. We didn't get a return. We didn't get, a debut. We got nothing. You know what I mean? We got nothing, any of that. I was like, okay, well, what the hell are we doing? We got a vignette that was played of the return of Kenny Omega, which is great. But there was no debut. There was no, speedball. Cause like, this is my thing. Could you honestly imagine last night? And I thought about this after last night's show, and I thought about it, all night. Could you imagine when last night's Dynamite, when they debuted on HBO Max, and they go through the entire show, okay, and we get to the end of the show, and after the match is over, the lights go off, and then next thing you know, this music hits, and then the spotlight comes on, and bam, it's Ricky Starks, and Starks is back. Could you imagine the goddamn the pop that they would have got for AEW last night, the internet buzz that AEW would have got, last night with the returning of Ricky Starks. Just that alone would have put them back in the conversation like, holy shit, maybe they're going to start doing shit right. It's going to get the people talking, get people invested. Oh, Ricky Starks is back. Can't wait to see what he's going to say next week. Or the return of Miro. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like, honestly. No, we get a Jeff Jarrett segment about him saying that he's going to retire, but, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to go on my retirement tour, and the last outlaw is going to go after the AEW World title. Bullshit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, it goes to show you that, Tony Khan obviously has his select favorites, and Jeff Jarrett's on that list. For whatever goddamn reason, he's on that list. But Jarrett needs to go. I do not want to see Jarrett on Dynamite every single week throughout 2025. I don't. I honestly, as a fan, I care less. I don't give a damn about Jarrett, man. Yeah, he's a decent wrestler. Do I think he's a great wrestler? Do I think he's one of the best? No, I do not. I'm sorry. And if you're a Jarrett fan and I offended you, hey, man, but God bless. It's just my opinion. You don't like it, go to someone else's show. But at the end of the day, with my opinion with Jeff Jarrett, do I think he's one of the best or one of the greatest of all time? Hell no. I don't. Because none of the shit that he did was his own. To be honest with you, the strut, that's Flair. The figure four leg lock, that's Flair. You know what I mean? And that's what he's really known for. Yeah, he had the guitar, and he would hit people with the guitar. Oh, whoop-de-doo. But how long was that Jeff Jarrett roadie shit really going to last in WWE, especially going into the Attitude Era? That shit wasn't going to last forever. It wasn't. The same thing with the roadie for Road Dogg. You think that shit was going to last forever? No, dude, it wasn't. It wasn't going to last in the Attitude Era. They would have been a joke. And I'm sorry, but till this day, Jeff Jarrett's best in-ring work that he's ever done is when he was in TNA. And I will argue that to the end of the moon, bro, because his WCW run was absolutely shit. He wasn't world champion for that company in WCW until WCW had no other choice but to put the goddamn belt on Jarrett because they were going out of business. And they were trying to build younger stars when the company was going. It was too late. It was too late. And that's just the way it was. Now Tony Khan's like, oh, you know what? We're gonna put Jarrett in the conversation for the AEW World Title. Ha! What? Why? Who gives a shit about Jarrett? Honestly. Well, he's gonna get the same retirement. How special it was for Sting. He's gonna get the same shit that Sting got for what? What has Jarrett done? What has he done? I understand and I appreciate what his family has done for the wrestling business. I have acknowledged that multiple times. What his father has done, Jerry Jarrett and his family, and what the Jarretts have done for professional wrestling, yes. They've done a lot of great things in professional wrestling and put on a lot of amazing and great moments and matches for fans all over the world. Absolutely. Especially in the Tennessee region when there was territories back then. Absolutely. A lot of people probably around back then probably were like, yeah, the Jarretts put on great matches. Yeah, they did. Back in the territory days. But I'm talking about Jeff Jarrett. What has Jeff Jarrett, not Jerry Jarrett, what has Jeff Jarrett done that's like, oh man, Jarrett is one of the GOATs? No, bro, no. I'm sorry. I'm just, I'm gonna keep it a buck. There's nothing that Jarrett's career is like, holy shit, yeah, Jeff Jarrett did that. No. There's so many other wrestlers I can name that are way better than Jeff Jarrett. That's a long, very long list. To be honest with you, that's not. Oh, you're a Jeff Jarrett hater. No, bro. To me, the reason why I have, I don't agree with Jeff Jarrett is because, in my honest opinion, AEW hypes Jeff Jarrett up to be this absolute great legend, and he's not. And then you're putting him in a situation for, oh yeah, he's in his retirement tour going into 2025, and you're giving him an AEW World Title opportunity, or he wants an AEW title opportunity where it just pushes back all the current and younger talent that you currently have right now on this roster that you're not willing to push. It's not fully Jeff Jarrett's fault. I also blame Tony Khan on this shit. You have the talent, man. You have younger talent that have been there day in, day out, busting their ass, trying to get on television and try to get in the main event scene, and you keep pushing them back because you have no faith in them. You don't believe in them. A guy like Darby Allin, Ricky Starks, Miro, you know what I mean? Like, Daniel Garcia, you're not investing in this younger talent to build this talent up. You know what I mean? You're just not. And certain talent that came into AEW, they said to hell with it, man. We're just going to kick the door down. Someone like Swerve Strickland. Swerve came in and kicked the goddamn door down. He's like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever the hell I can to be on the main event scene. And God bless the guy, he did it. Swerve completely revamped his career going over to AEW, and he didn't give a shit what anybody thought. He was going to be the top dog or one of the top dogs in AEW, and he is. Swerve Strickland is a big-time main eventer for AEW. And he's done a fantastic job with the AEW title. And hopefully he does get it back, to be honest with you. Tony Khan needs to push younger talent. I don't want to hear about Jeff Jarrett going after the AEW World Championship or actually having the opportunity of holding that belt. That would be one of the worst times in AEW's history of him being world champion. I'm sorry. That's a humongous red flag for me. But all in all, man, I think right now, does AEW going into in 2025, does it look a little bit better? It's hard to tell, bro, to be honest with you. I mean, it's the first night in 2025 for AEW. Now, them being a part of Max, and I watched it on Max personally last night, I thought it looked crisp, man. I thought the visuals looked great. The camera angles were great. I thought it was good. I really did. But just because you're on Max doesn't mean that the shows still can't suffer, man. I mean, creatively, AEW is suffering immensely. And it's a slow burn, bro. That's just the name of it. Anybody out here doing this is going to say the same shit. AEW suffers from not telling storylines, not having any storylines, and creative is ultimately destroying AEW. Because the fans can't get invested. Because, and look at the narrative, bro. The TV ratings are down. They're not selling out arenas anymore. Because fans started not being invested in this product anymore. Because there's nothing compelling about AEW anymore. There's just not. Pretty much what you see is what you get. And that's all we're getting right now. So, there are fans out there, obviously, that are loyal to AEW. There's some people that have been there with AEW since day one, since it existed, myself included. But I'm not going to sit here and be one of those podcasters that are going to sugarcoat shit just to sugarcoat shit because, hey, it pleases the morale. No, man. I'm real. You ain't got to like me. You ain't got, you know what I mean? You can go somewhere else, bro. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest every single goddamn time I do this because as a fan, I'm a fan, number one. Day in, day out, I'm a fan. And I'm not going to bullshit somebody and say, oh, yeah, you know what? Hey, man, how'd you feel about AEW? And sit there and say, oh, yeah, it was a great show when the show's absolute dog shit. Same thing about Raw or same thing about SmackDown. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, bro. I'm not looking to be, sit at the right seat with Tony Khan. I'm not looking for that. I'm not. I want to give fans news about AEW and WWE and be brutally honest. And with the Jarrett situation, I'm brutally honest. You don't have to like it, but this is my show. And at the end of the day, this is how I feel about the current situation with AEW and the whole Jeff Jarrett situation. I think it's an absolute joke. And I've been watching wrestling for a very long time, bro. And I've been covering pro wrestling now for quite a bit. And yeah, there's been some good, there's been some bad, and there's been some uglies with professional wrestling. I would say for the past couple of years, all over the board, man. That's not just AEW, but WWE too. And we all know what that means. From the former owner and CEO of WWE to what's going on with AEW now, it hasn't been great for both sides of the fence, bro. It's not just AEW. But at the end of the day, I want AEW to succeed. And I have mentioned that multiple times in the past. This is not something where I'm trying to, have people say, hey, you know what, let's have AEW close the doors and that's it. And all the talent can go to WWE or go here or go there. No. I have been the same guy that has been preaching and preaching and preaching for the past, Christ, bro, I don't know how long now, but I want AEW to stick around because competition breeds success. Now, I'm not saying AEW currently is competition with WWE. No, I think WWE is miles ahead of what AEW is doing right now. WWE is in their own league of their own. But if you're a talent in professional wrestling, you have other options just besides WWE. You can go to AEW, you can go to TNA, you can go to New Japan. It gives these men and women that are currently professional wrestlers other options to do if they don't want to go over to WWE, or if they're in WWE and they get released and they don't see WWE doesn't really want to bring them back. It gives these men and women other opportunities to wrestle somewhere else and make a name for themselves somewhere else, not just on the indies. For example, like Baron Corbin, he's a current free agent right now. You know what I mean? Josh Alexander, Speedball Mike Bailey. These are top professional wrestlers in this industry that are looking for places of employment, so they don't have to just say, oh, you know what, I have to go to WWE, or it's just the independents for until I get picked up from WWE. No, with AEW being around, it gives these men and women opportunities to make money, still be on the the professional wrestling scene, and be on obviously getting these matches televised. It gets their name out there, man, and it makes them their stock rise more with signing with an AEW or a TNA. You know what I mean? So it's. I don't want AEW to fail. I just want AEW to actually have compelling storylines for the fans to get invested in. That's just the way it is, bro. And for what it's worth, wrestling is storyline. You need compelling storylines for the fans to get invested in your matches and in your product. And AEW, as of late, has had a really hard time with doing that, and it's really driving fans away. Fans are driving away in droves because of the current state of AEW right now, because they cannot get invested emotionally into AEW because there's no compelling storylines to be like, oh man, I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next week with this shit going on. You know what I'm saying? We don't have that. What you're getting is just Tony Khan putting on these dream matches and booking these matches for the sickos, but that's not going to last very long. That shit's going to get, that well's going to run dry, bro, because those dream matches that you want to see, we've already seen them 2 or 3 times already. You know what I mean? So how much of a dream match can you get, can you technically get? For example, a lot of fans, some fans out there have already known that Kenny Omega and Okada have wrestled a bunch of times over in New Japan, and now AEW wants to book another match between Omega and Okada, most likely happening in All In. But it's like, again, how many times do we had to see this match? But on the flip side of that coin, there's some AEW fans that are relatively new to professional wrestling that have no idea the history between Omega and Okada. They don't know, because a lot of people really tune in to New Japan. And to be honest with you, New Japan really wasn't prevalent that much in the States, really, besides, I guess, when AEW kind of came into the fold. To be honest with you, I mean, yeah, they were having certain events, but not a lot of people were really getting truly invested until AEW came along, and people got invested in AEW, and then AEW actually had a partnership and a working relationship with New Japan, and it got a lot more fans, invested, or at least curious about what was going on in New Japan, because we saw, Forbidden Door, where AEW and New Japan talent were going, head-to-head with each other in these matches. So it got fans invested not only in AEW's product, but as well as New Japan. So it was beneficial for both companies, absolutely. The same thing with the event this weekend for Wrestle Dynasty. A lot of other companies are all under the same roof, with Wrestle Dynasty having these matches with New Japan talent, Ring of Honor talent, CMML talent, Stardom, as well as AEW. So it just kind of opens the door for a lot more eyes on the products for all these other companies. So it's beneficial for all parties involved. But I think at the end of the day, AEW, I'm not going to sit here and say they need to hit the reset button, but they need a creative team, bro. They need somebody, Tony needs to bring somebody in that he can actually trust, that can actually write compelling storylines for this company. Because if it doesn't happen, man, it's not going to look good for AEW. It's not. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want to see Jeff Jarrett World Heavyweight Champion. I just think that's a bad creative move. And if you're a Jarrett fan, then I'm sorry, man. But to me, I'm going to stand on the hill by myself. I don't think Jarrett's one of the GOATs. I don't. And 2, with you saying that, and then Tony Khan possibly entertaining that idea, all it's going to do is push away the younger talent that you currently have on this roster right now that has been there since day one, that have been doing everything they can to bust their ass to get on the main event scene or get a world title opportunity. And you're pushing that possibly back to give Jeff Jarrett, his final hoorah, like he deserves it, which he does not. He's done nothing. Where you look at people like Ricky Starks, who's been sitting at home doing absolutely nothing because Tony Khan doesn't want him to do anything, doesn't want him to work independent dates or GCW events. And Ricky, Tony Khan has some kind of issue with Ricky Starks and making Ricky Starks sit at home. Or Miro, you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Sammy Guevara. Like, you have the talent. You have younger talent. Daniel Garcia, to build up to be new contenders for your company that's going to, push this company into the future. And I'm sorry, but with Darby Allin is that guy that's going to push this company to the future. Darby is that guy. And Darby should have been that guy. And I said this, a while back, a few times now, that he should have been the guy that dethrones Bryan Danielson and became AEW World Champion, and Danielson passes the torch to Darby Allin. Darby Allin is AEW. The fans love Darby Allin. And he's a day one guy. He's one of the originals. So why not have Darby Allin go over and carry this company on his back? Because I'm telling you right now, if Darby was carrying that belt right now, a lot more fans would be like, oh man, you know what? I might have to tune in because Darby Allin is AEW World Champion, and that guy's absolutely insane. He's crazy. And the way he has his matches, I'll be surprised that guy's walking by the age of 40. You know what I mean? But he puts on incredible matches, and he is pro AEW. You know what I mean? So why not have Darby carry the AEW World title? You know what I'm saying? Not to entertain a Jeff Jarrett winning the AEW World title, which would be an absolute nightmare. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion, man. I'm not sitting here. You can't tell me right now that Jeff Jarrett is equal to someone like Sting. No goddamn way in hell. No. Absolutely not, man. Look at the career catalog for both these guys. There's no goddamn way that Jarrett even remotely comes close to what Sting's done in his career. No way. No way. That was one of the things that, If you're a fan of my show, which I hope you guys are, you knew damn well I was going to rant about that shit because I'm not too keen on Jeff Jarrett. I'm not. And I said the same thing about Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal needs to get the hell away from Jeff Jarrett. He needs to do his own thing. And he should have been TNT champion by now. AEW world champion right now. The guy was a former television and Ring of Honor world champion. Multi-time. He hasn't done shit in his AEW run. Only thing he's been doing is sticking around Jeff Jarrett. Why? You're wasting your time. Wasting time. And they brought Jarrett in to do this backstage stuff and work with talent and be a producer. Well, be a producer, bro. Nobody needs to see you in the ring. Honestly. And there's other people that, I mean, hell, there's people that are still waiting for Nick Aldis to have a match on SmackDown. I think Nick Aldis can still go another 5-6 years and wrestle competitively on the main roster if he really wanted to. Not Jeff Jarrett in AEW, not the way those guys wrestle, not at his age. No way. No way. Can you imagine a match with Jeff Jarrett and Darby Allin? Oh my God. Darby would have to carry Jarrett throughout the entire match. You know what I mean? Like, you got to look at the narrative, bro. If you're saying this company's all for the fans, well, clearly you're not listening to the fans as of late. I would say for the past 2 years. Because the fans have been coming out in droves saying that this shit is bad. And that this company is going downhill because you obviously don't give a shit. You're at this point, Tony Khan is booking these shows because this is what Tony Khan wants to see. This is not something where he's like, you know what, I'm going to do this for the fans. No, this is some shit that Tony Khan wants to do for his own personal, endeavors. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to see. And I think it's ultimately just going to cripple this show. And I still believe that he's self-sabotaging his own company by doing the shit that he's doing. He needs to fix it, man. And the proof is in the pudding, bro. Look at the TV ratings. The fact that they can't sell at arenas. They're going to smaller arenas now because they can't sell tickets. The TV ratings are down. A lot of people are not buying that many pay-per-views that much anymore. And they're still charging people $50 for these pay-per-views with what? Just these matches with no storylines? Come on, bro. I mean, and these matches there's 12 matches on the card that some of these matches don't mean shit. They don't. How can you get invested in the matches where the match goes nowhere? What does a match mean? Why? How did we get here? What does this mean for the competitors? We don't know because there's no storyline. There's nothing compelling about the damn match. Nothing. Same thing with the Continental Classic tournament, bro. That Continental title means absolutely nothing. Nothing. And if they're going to do it again, and considering what Will Ospreay did, the match he had with Fletcher at World's End, and then going into Okada, come on, bro. And you're doing all that shit for the Continental title. That title means jack shit. It means jack shit. Doesn't mean anything. So if they do this Continental Classic shit again next year, I'm sorry, but the ultimate prize for me, if I'm going in that tournament, would be, hey, you know what? You get an opportunity at the AEW World Title. That's something worth fighting for. That's something that, with Will Ospreay doing what he did at World's End, okay, yeah, I can understand why he's doing what he's doing because it's worth it. Nobody gives a shit about the Continental title. What was Okada? I mean, I'm a huge fan of Okada, but how many times has Okada defended that belt in 2024? That belt is nothing, bro. It means nothing. Honestly. Same thing with the international title. I mean, the international title is taking a backseat as well. But the Continental title, to me, honestly, in my honest opinion, that belt has not mean shit since Eddie Kingston wore that belt. When Eddie Kingston had that title, it actually meant something. People got excited because people were fans of Eddie Kingston and what he did in that tournament to get the belt. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously he got injured, and then he had the match with Okada. But the last time that you were actually, for me, that I was excited about the Continental title was when Eddie Kingston had it. Absolutely. When he was I think it was 2 titles on the line. I think he was the Ring of Honor television champion, if I'm not mistaken. And then he had that belt as well, or something like that. And he went through the tournament. You know what I mean? And like my thing is, and that's when everybody got excited. But now the Continental title means absolutely nothing. That's just the nature of the beast, bro. And in my honest opinion, going into the first AEW Dynamite in 2025, they didn't start the new era well. In my honest opinion, it did not go off with a bang. I would have debuted somebody or returned somebody last night in the main event, or at least some part of the show, whether it was Miro or Ricky Starks. I mean, can you imagine? Like I said, man, it's not rocket science. Can you imagine the pop for AEW, whether it was internet buzz or other podcasters or just the fans? If all of a sudden the lights go out or something like that, or we get, or just a segment, if you will, and all of a sudden this music hits and then the light comes up and it's Ricky Starks, the place would have erupted. Everybody online would have went absolutely batshit insane knowing that Ricky Starks returned to AEW television. Because people have been, waiting for it, bro, patiently. What's Ricky doing? What's going on with Ricky Starks? Could you imagine if Ricky Starks showed up last night and be like, you know what, I'm back? You know what I mean? Anything. Even if he came back as a heel or something, anything, bro. Miro, Ricky Starks, something to be like, holy shit. The debut of Speedball Mike Bailey, Josh Alexander, maybe I don't know if he's a current free agent or not. Baron Corbin, something. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, holy shit, man, this is going to be a new year for AEW. Something that's going to tell the fans, stay tuned and lock in because 2025 is going to be one hell of a year for AEW. I had not gotten any of that on last night's episode of Dynamite. And I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. It's the first episode of AEW in 2025. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But if we're going to get what we got last night, every single week from here on out throughout 2025, AEW is in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. And people are going to start taking notices, bro, and realize that this company is not what it once was 3 years ago, and AEW is slowly starting to decline to a point where they might not be able to ever come back again, and this company might be closing their doors if they don't improve on what they're doing creatively with AEW and building storylines and building the talent that they currently have on the roster right now to be the future of this company so this company can move forward and survive for another 10, 15, 20, if not longer, years in professional wrestling. And right now they're not doing that. They're not building the future stars for AEW, and they're not, building compelling storylines to get the fans emotionally invested into the AEW product. And if they don't do that, bro, this company will not last long. I can promise you that. And there's going to be a lot more talent that are going to want to leave and possibly go to WWE if WWE actually give them the opportunity to come over once they're free agents. That's probably what's going to happen right now, bro, if this keeps going the way it's going. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite Fight for the Fallen. I hope you guys are out there